In the year of the Hijra, roughly corresponding to the 14th century, a young jurist named Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Lawadi al-Tanji stood at the edge of Tangier's harbor. The city hummed with restless energy, merchants bartering, mules clopping on cobblestones, and the sea carrying stories from distant lands. Ibn Battuta tied his cloak and remembered his father's words. "Go, and let knowledge be your companion." He had studied fiqh, memorized hadith, and read geography and poetry, but the maps in the scholars' books were incomplete. He wanted to fill them in with footsteps. "You're leaving for pilgrimage? For knowledge? For adventure? Or for the chance that the world will be kinder than the madrasa?" a merchant asked. "All of the above," Ibn Battuta replied. "The caravan to Alexandria leaves at dawn. I'll travel, seek scholars, see the lands of the Sultanate and the Caliphates, and return a man of wider understanding." The night before departure, the harbor shimmered under oil lamps and the scent of spices. Traders shared stories and coin. Bundles were tied, goats were traded, and a boy named Ahmad brought a small leather-bound notebook as a parting gift. "Record what you see, Ibn Battuta. Not every scholar will write, not every story will be told. Promise me, write," Ahmad said softly. "I promise," Ibn Battuta replied. At dawn, he boarded a vessel bound for the east. Tangier receded, a compacted world of olive trees, whitewashed houses, and the echoes of his mother's blessing, and his voyage began. He was not merely leaving Tangier to perform the pilgrimage. He was stepping into a profession without equal, the profession of being astonished. He would cross deserts and seas, sit in courts of sultans, walk among merchants and dervishes, and test his faith and curiosity. "Let the Prophet's path be my guide. Let me be patient. Let my tongue ask and my ears listen," he whispered to himself. The ship delivered him to Ceuta, and from there the road began, stone and sand, cities and oases. He traveled with caravans, meeting men who had crossed the Sahara and women who traded salt and dates. The sun was relentless, but the nights tasted of dates and the coolness of communal fires. "You must pass through the Maghreb cities. Fez holds scholars who argue at night with the vigor of men who believe words can command the world. Sijil Masa lies farther. Merchants of gold come there from the south. But beware the sands, storms come with no warning." A merchant advised, "I will take your counsel. Tell me of Sijil Masa. Of the people who come with gold and stories." Ibn Battuta asked. "They come from the lands of the black merchants, Mali, Ghana. They bring gold dust in leather pouches. Their caravans cross the Sahara like islands of life." The merchant replied. Fez overwhelmed him with its labyrinthine Medina. Scholars debating under fig trees, the scent of leather from tanneries, and the calls of teachers at madrasas. At the University of Al-Qarawiyyin, he listened, head bowed in respect, heart awake. "Law must be alive. A jurist who cannot respond to the world is like a lamp whose oil has run out," a scholar pronounced. "Tell me of the differences in practice between the Maliki and Shafi'i schools. I studied under masters here, but the world awaits," Ibn Battuta said eagerly. "You have young ambition. Learn. Sit. See the world, then return to defend what you find true," the scholar replied with a chuckle. By the time he reached Sijil Masa, the maps in his mind had grown larger. The city was a junction, a place where gold met the Mediterranean world. Caravans arrived with salt and copper. Merchants sat under awnings and spoke of kings and the weight of their coin. Gold from the great river lands. The Mali and Ghana caravans come thrice each year. They bring not only gold but ivory, kola nuts, and stories of mighty rulers. One whispered to him. The caravan's tracks led him to the Great Nile. He embarked towards Cairo, the city layered with Mamluk might, a place where scholars congregated in mosques and merchants spoke in many tongues. Cairo was a universe of minarets and corridors, where the din of commerce met the hush of learning. He studied at venerable institutions, sat among jurisconsults, and debated the tenets of law and philosophy. The city's markets offered an atlas of human enterprise. Spices from the east, textiles from Anatolia, glassware, and the glitter of coins from faraway courts. We have treatises on geometry, charts of the stars, and letters from scholars in Damascus. Sit, read. Learn how men bend words into law. A bookseller invited. Who teaches the next generation? Is there room for a traveler to listen and to ask? Ibn Battuta asked. There is always room. Bring your questions. The scholars in the madrasa of Al-Azhar love a fresh mind, the bookseller said. At Al-Azhar, Ibn Battuta listened to lectures that stretched into the night. He spoke with jurists who argued about governance, and men who combined mathematics with the art of measuring the Qibla. He met a Sufi mystic who traced the night sky with a finger. The world is a mirror of the beloved. When you travel, do not only record cities, record how the heart changes there. The mystic whispered. How does the heart measure the miles? Ibn Battuta asked. By whom it chooses to remember, the mystic replied. He set his course for Alexandria, where the Mediterranean's trade routes offered passage to the Levant. Along the coast, the wind tasted with citrus and salt, sailors sang of storms, and merchants spoke of Antioch and the distant markets of Aleppo. In Damascus, he spent evenings listening to poetry, while Aleppo offered him caravanserai that slept like giants under a quilt of stars. He witnessed the complexity of governances. Local emirs, distant sultans, and the mingled presence of Christians, Jews, and Muslims living in overlapping neighborhoods. Trade teaches new tongues. We speak Hebrew at home, Arabic in the market, and sometimes a few words of Venetian when the ships arrive. We survive on adaptability, a Jewish merchant explained. Do you find peace here? Ibn Battuta asked. Peace is a trade as delicate as silk. It can fray, but we mend it with habit and negotiation, he replied. The pilgrimage was a river of humanity. Men and women in simple garments, languages braided together, Persian, Turkish, African tongues, Arabic and many cadences, walked towards the sacred valley. The caravan wove through landscapes of desolation and beauty, rocky plateaus, palms standing like old priests, and camps where stories were exchanged as currency. We bring kola nuts and gold. We bring songs from our kings. Hajj is both an obligation and a chance to greet brothers across the world, a pilgrim from West Africa told him. And the scholars? Ibn Battuta asked. They come from near and far. We debate, we read, we pray. The holy month is a university with no walls, the pilgrim replied. At Mina and Arafat, he stood with thousands beneath a sky that seemed too vast for human speech. The rituals had an immediacy that cut through the traveler's fatigue. At the Kaaba, he felt the press of bodies and the sigh of supplication. To look at the Kaaba is to look at the heart of a world united, he murmured. After the rites, the camps thawed into conversation. Scholars debated jurisprudence and poetry. Ibn Battuta met a Persian jurist named Ibn al-Faqih who discussed trade laws and the fine distinctions of contracts. Commerce creates obligations the law must answer. A traveler must learn the local customs, for many transactions are guided by habit more than by text. Ibn al-Faqih explained. How, then, do we reconcile local habit with universal law? Ibn Battuta asked. We weigh the purpose of the law, and when local practice does not conflict with core principles, we may allow flexibility. He answered. The voyage to Aden and then to the Malabar coast was long and rich with small wonders, islands where coconut trees leaned toward the water and port towns smelling of curry and cloves. He arrived in Calicut and later in Gujarat and Delhi, lands where the languages and customs stretched his understanding. The spices alone are a sermon. Their smell instructs the senses. Ibn Battuta marveled. In Delhi, he entered the court of Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq. The city was a forest of fortifications, mosques, and palaces. Its court was an organism of power, rumor, and politics. The Sultan was known for his intellect and eccentric policies. The Sultan thinks in bold strokes. He reassigns officials, taxes mercantile routes, and sometimes changes the capital on a whim. A courtier whispered. And what of his judgments? Is he learned? Ibn Battuta asked. He is learned and cruel in equal measure. Those who flatter him thrive. Those who do not vanish into exile or worse. The courtier replied. Ibn Battuta's learning and piety opened a door. He served as a qadi, a judge, in distant provinces under the Sultan's patronage. His judgments were full of compassion and legal finesse, and his reputation grew. Your Honor, I bring a dispute of land, where water rights are unclear. A plaintiff approached. Water is the common property of those who depend on it. We examine usage, testimony, and the customs of the village. Justice is balance, Ibn Battuta replied calmly. He traveled within the Sultan's realm, to Bengal and Sindh, and saw the richness of Indian courts, lush gardens, musicians playing sitar-like instruments, the scent of sandalwood, and throngs of poets whose verses curled like smoke. He found passage across the Bay of Bengal, through Malacca, and onto the South China Sea. When he arrived on Chinese shores, he was struck by cities where junks floated like wooden mountains and markets crowded with silk and porcelain. Merchants of many faiths, Muslim, Chinese, Persian, and Arab, spoke in a tangle of tongues. Welcome. The silks come from Hangzhou. Porcelain is here. Tea from the mountains. We trade in weight and measure. A Chinese merchant told him. Your ware is superb. Tell me of the cities inland. What do scholars read? Ibn Battuta asked. Our scholars read Confucian texts and histories. They study administration. In waterworks our engineers are proud. There are also learned Muslims here who teach in their own houses. The merchant explained. He met Chinese Muslims who had established communities blending local customs with their faith. The mosques bore minarets in quiet conversation with pagoda roofs, and the imams taught in Arabic and Chinese. Faith can travel. When it lands on foreign soil, it plants itself according to local light. An imam told him. Ibn Battuta marveled at the administrative sophistication, irrigation systems, city walls, and printing techniques that multiplied knowledge. After years in the East, Ibn Battuta returned by sea and land, retracing parts of his route while exploring new towns along the Indian Ocean, Arabia, and North Africa. He reached Tangier once more, a city familiar yet distant in memory. He recorded his travels with painstaking detail, reflecting on the scholars he had met, the rulers he had observed, and the ordinary people whose lives gave texture to history. To know the world is to meet it, to see it, to live it, he wrote. And to carry it within, in memory and in words, so that others may follow, or at least imagine, the breadth of God's creation. His journey, which began as a search for knowledge and spiritual fulfillment, had become a testament to curiosity, courage, and the unending human desire to explore. Ibn Battuta, the traveler of the world, closed one chapter of his life, leaving the stories of his wanderings to endure across centuries, inspiring all who sought the road.